So we start with current events, and I'm going to introduce a new segment. Now, both you and I had some homework. I finished mine. I'm sure you didn't do yours. You never did any homework in class. Um, approximately a week ago, Elon Musk interviewed Alice Weedle is her name. She is the head of AfD. I don't know what that stands for. That's one of the political parties in Germany. All their opponents call them extremists. Musk is a supporter, and that's why he had her on the space. Um, and so we both listened to it. But I'm going to introduce a segment. We're going to call it the Elon Files. And so I think because he generates so much news, I think we can do a quick segment every week. We don't have to go in depth about something that Elon Musk is working on. But we did this after all of the news that he generated over a couple of weeks, starting right around Christmas, through the news. I'd say he drove the news cycle until the California wildfires started, and then they drove the news cycle. But it's pretty impressive and amazing that one guy can drive the global news cycle on his own all over the globe. And so last week I said I believe that he likes this party because they're against multiculturalism, which in the U.S. we would call unfettered immigration. And having listened to his discussion with her, which was interesting, she's definitely not. I can only imagine how much propaganda the mainstream media in Germany and Europe uh, has to this party and to other things, and it's probably much worse than our mainstream media. We think ABC News and MSNBC are bad. Can only imagine how bad they are in Germany. But his philosophy is a lot bigger than multiculturalism. Having listened to it, I think what he is going for is political leaders in the like framing between Javier Milei in Argentina and Donald Trump. So it's cut government spending, get your budget under control, cut government taxes, regulation, all of the above energy policy. Again, an orderly immigration policy, anti woke. I don't know if I'm missing anything, but you put some combination thereof together, and that's the sort of leader that he wants. The Meloni, the prime minister of Italy, is against multiculturalism, against woke. I don't know about the other things. He hasn't talked a lot about this guy, but the guy who's probably going to win in Canada, Pierre Palavar, is that way as well. And as I said, Malai is my favorite politician in the globe right now because he I'm a budget guy. That is the most. But he has a vision that he's executed, and the AfD hits every erogenous zone for Musk. So I know why he supports them. They do all of it. That's what they want. They want to cut government, cut taxes, cut regulation. The most interesting thing was when he was talking about getting a plant in Germany, and he said they required 25,000 pages of paperwork that had to be on paper and several different copies. And he said they actually had to put the paperwork into a van that they drove. And Tesla can make that happen. How many companies just can't comply with your regulatory demands, and as a result there's no plants being built? And so that's what AfD is against, and I can see why he supports them. And I think what he's trying to do is find governments like that or policymakers like that and throw his support behind them, because I think that's who he thinks can lead the world into a good place. And I could be wrong. The rules are different with every country. Some will allow him to support them financially, others won't. As long as he's not breaking any laws, you can be against him because you don't like him. But having a Twitter space with the head of AfD, you have to be really cynical to say, "Wow, how dare you?" And so, what'd you think of it?
I think that the AfD party, Alternative for Deutschland, is basically the media tags it as a far right extremist party, but it's no
Mhm.
different than MAGA is in the United States, or no different than the right in Argentina, or the right in Italy, or the right in Canada for that instance.
Mhm.
Uh, I think that what they're talking about, their talking points are pretty common globally. I think it's no different than Nigel Farage's party in the UK. I think that this
And
is a
that's a party he supports.
this is a core set of values internationally in the
Mhm.
free world that were aligned pretty clearly when we were fighting against the evil empire, against communism
Right.
and the Soviet Union. And I think that they need to realign now, because we're still fighting communism in all its forms, but be it explicitly with the Chinese Communist Party and their inroads into the Americas and to Africa and to everywhere, but
Mhm.
also cultural Marxism that
Mhm.
we see in so many other places,
And
and
what
that's
he calls woke. What he calls woke.
wokeness. It's a virus. It's a
Right.
cultural virus, and it's
Right.
infected a lot of the pro Muslim advocates, the
Mhm.
pro those groups, and
Mhm.
the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel groups, and
And all of this was triggered by a long-term immigrant from a Muslim country who drove his car through a market and killed a whole bunch of Germans. That's what started this hit Musk's like open support for AfD. But I read an article. This is interesting. He was introduced to AfD sometime in 2023. A Twitter user tweeted it to him and said, "You should check out this party." Started a conversation with them. He I asked somewhat rhetorically. I don't know if he's shooting from the hip. I don't think he came upon this party like 3 weeks ago. I think he has been studying them, and he knows their policies. Now, it was also interesting the way she countered the argument that she is like too close to the Nazis, and she said, Hitler's greatest trick was convincing the world that he's far right. We are far right in the sense that we want less government, less taxes, less regulation. He took over industries, and we want free speech and free press, and he took over the press. So how is he far right? Now, one thing that definitely she's right that philosophically she's nowhere near Hitler. And also, she pointed out as we speak, there's like 150 European bureaucrats listening to you trying to find some sort of violation. So, who is anti-free speech, free press? But some of their some of their people have been found to ally in one way or another with with the Nazi Party. This guy said that he tried to excuse some of the SS. A couple of their guys were known to make Nazi slogans, that sort of thing. I, you know, it's it's at the margins, and I'm not going to defend any of the individuals, but I think it's a smear to align these guys with the Nazi Party, and it's a way to basically to dismiss them and everything they stand for. Well, they're like neo Nazis, so you don't need to listen to them, and that's not what you got at all from the discussion.
it's very basic. It's called the National Socialist Party.
Right,
These individuals are not in any way, shape, or form socialists.
right.
Okay,
They're the opposite.
I think they're the exact opposite. It's like
Right,
saying Donald Trump is a Nazi. Is the craziest thing in the world. The guy doesn't have a socialist bone in his body. Neither does
right.
Elon Musk. Neither does
Mm-hmm.
the Maloney in Italy. Neither does Millet in Argentina. None of these
Right.
people are.
It's the opposite, Malay especially.
What it is an ad hominem attack. It's the
Mm-hmm.
first argument you get taught. Compare the person you
Mm-hmm.
don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the worst person you can think of? Compare him
Yeah,
to Stalin. Compare him to Pol Pot. Compare him to Idi
right,
Amin.
right. Of course. Look, as I was listening to it, I would say the one guy in the history of humankind who would be AFD's biggest fan is Thomas Jefferson. Everything that he stood for is what they stood for. Get government out of the way, reduce the size of government, make government as local as possible. That's what he wanted. And it is being truly libertarian is the exact opposite of the Nazis. Now they have some links in terms of some of these guys have shown some sympathy to some things that Hitler or the Nazis said. They've made statements that are either boneheaded, stupid, or look. The thing is, in Germany, some of this stuff is illegal. You can't say things like the Nazis were great. They actually make that illegal. I can understand why they would, but it's not. They're not Nazis at all.
3 points on that. First, it's closer to Milton Friedman. He's probably the ideological father of this movement. Anybody, economist Milton Friedman. Second, the fact of the matter is, the issues here you're talking about is Hitler's and the Nazi Party's nativism, and they're trying to make the connection there. But it's a fallacious connection. They're trying to say, because so and so owned brown shoes, and so and so's like Hitler. Hitler owned brown shoes. So and so owns brown shoes. They're like Hitler. There's a nativist issue, and for good reason. You look at some of these cities in Germany and throughout Europe, they've gone to shit in plain English. Right. Immigration policies in France,
and that's the multiculturalism.
What Charles Martel did in the 1700s to stop the Muslims from conquering France then. We had an entire Reconquista in Spain to rid the Muslims of Spain and to keep Christendom intact. And the fact is, the immigration policies, probably over the last 30 years, have destroyed these things in Europe, especially in quote-unquote Western Europe. The Western capitals there are streets in London you cannot walk down if you're a British woman who's not wearing a burqa or some type of head cover, because the harassment.
And that's the multiculturalism that we are inviting as many people from all over the world, but in particular the Middle East. And there's a second problem with it. The Europeans, the natives, are having no children. Muslims have like 10 or 15 each. So over time, you're going to see a massive shift in the way that Europe looks. And if this continues, there's not going to be any more whites in Europe left, because they won't have any kids, and all of the Muslims will have kids, and you're going to have a complete turnover. And this
problem is it's a destruction of the nation state. Let's call multiculturalism what it really is. It's cultural Marxism. It's a subversion effort over a period of time to culturally destroy the fabric of the nation state, destroy the fundamental pillars that allow for a democracy and a capitalist society to function. That's what this is. The communists are playing the long game, and frankly, Elon Musk is gathering together the people in countries around the world that have the foresight to see it.
Right. He's gathering together the political leaders that have the foresight to see it. And it's a combination of Javier Milei in Argentina and Donald Trump. And by the way, I don't talk about this enough. Trump on energy, that may have been his best policy. He opened up drilling on everything. We were a net exporter. So basically, this AfD party, they are looking at what Trump did, and they want to do the exact same thing. If you can drill or whatever for energy, nuclear, oil, anything. Musk during the conversation said, I'm a huge fan of solar, but I understand that solar is not an end-all, be-all. We need all of these other energy sources. And she pointed out, when the Russians cut off their energy supply to Germany, that the response from the German government was to shut down nuclear power. And look, nuclear power gets a bad rap based on horrible disasters from 30 and 40 years ago that I believe the nuclear industry has fixed. I don't think a Chernobyl is going to happen anymore. So you're using things that can no longer happen as a reason not to use it.